I said on Thursday night that sometimes there are elephants in the room when it comes to worship services like this, and that last parable that I read to you is an elephant in the room, and Paula did a wonderful job of making the most out of what is an awful parable. But especially the part about the poor guy who comes to the party and he doesn't have the tuxedo on. I thought you just pulled him off the streets and now you expect him to have remembered his tuxedo before he came. But I think what Paula did with that is absolutely wonderful. The guy was just asked to party and he didn't want to party. And I think that is really, really what the gospel is all about. It's an invitation to a party. And we're called to party. But I don't want to talk about that today. I want to talk about something else, because, I think, I'll be honest with you, I'd be lying if I didn't say that I've been feeling a little bit blue lately. The weather's been nasty. Summer's over. Outdoor cycling has come to an end. I hate when that happens. But, more importantly, the reality of the world just is really getting to my gut. The situation in Palestine and Israel has really disturbed me. Both Paula and I have been to this portion of the world a couple of times and are acquainted with people who live there or have lived there. Admittedly, we've not been in the Gaza, where most of the ugliness is centered right now. That's a portion of Palestine that for a long time has been off limits to Americans. But nonetheless, what's going on there and throughout the region is just so horrific. I find myself profoundly disturbed by how cavalierly too many humans treat other humans and how entrenched some injustice is. And frankly, I want it all to be different. Now, today we are confronted with readings that focus on feasts, on celebrations, on meals to die for. And for me, I got to be honest, readings like that seem out of place. They seem so disconnected from the life we know right now. I'm not feeling the feast right now. I'm not sure I'm ready for joy. Our first reading for today from Isaiah provides an interesting and perhaps ironic take on the party. What we have in this story is what appears to be two disparate, two very different stories that seem oddly connected. In fact, in some ways they don't seem connected at all, which is why some people wonder if the guy who edited Isaiah fell asleep while he was editing this part, because he's brought two stories that don't seem to belong together. The first 5 verses of the text are a song of praise, rejoicing in a military victory, thought to be brought about by God to the people. We don't really know the setting of the song, but maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe it is a song that could have been used by Israel for a variety of victories. O Lord, you are my God. I will exalt you. I will praise your name, for you've done wonderful things, plans formed of old, faithful and sure, for you've made the city a heap, the fortified city a ruin. The palace of aliens is a city no more, and it will never be rebuilt. Now, reading these words, frankly, took me to Israel and Palestine, because Isaiah is obviously talking about the consequences of war, cities becoming heaps, governmental buildings being destroyed. But you have to understand, though, in this case, for this writer, this is good news. Why? Because Israel has won the battle. And they, Isaiah is saying, at that time, were the underdogs. You, according to Isaiah, have been a refuge to the poor, a refuge to the needy in their distress. Isaiah's people are the poor, the needy, the oppressed. God is said to be on the side of the little people. I like that, because many people are victimized by life, oppressed by others. God, the Bible insists, is on the side of the oppressed, the victims. The victims are many in Palestine and Israel, the families of those killed at the music concert, the people held as hostages, babies, young people, Israeli citizens, Palestinians victimized by both Hamas and Israel. God is a refuge to the poor, to the needy in their distress. If the cross of Christ is a sign of anything good, it is a sign that God identifies with victims. Elie Wiesel, one of the most famous survivors of the Holocaust, tells a moving story in his book, Night, of a young man who is being hung by the Nazis. Where is God? Where is he? Someone behind me asked. For more than half an hour, the child in the noose stayed there, struggling between death and life, dying in a slow agony under our eyes, and we had to look him full in the face. He was still alive when I passed in front of him. His tongue was red. His eyes were not yet glazed. Behind me, I heard the same man asking, "Where is God now?" And I heard a voice within me answering him, "Where is he? Here he is. He's hanging on the gallows." For Wiesel, God is the victim. For Isaiah, God sides with the victims, gives victory to the oppressed. That's not a new story, by the way. Israel's nationhood began in God leading the people out of the hands of the oppressive Egyptians. Now, it is interesting to me that we get all this talk about war and victory for the oppressed in Isaiah right before we hear Isaiah's remarkable picture of the great and final party where there are no enemies, where all are included. It all seems so disconnected to me. War talk, gloating about winning a battle against one particular enemy, and then a soaring vision of hope for all. On Mount Zion, this is one of my favorite biblical readings. I get to read it at funerals quite often. On Mount Zion, the Lord of hosts will make for all people a feast of rich food, a feast of well-aged wines, of rich food filled with marrow, of well-aged wine strained clear. And he will destroy on this mountain the shroud that is cast over all peoples, the sheet that is spread over all the nations. He will swallow up death forever. And then the Lord God will wipe away all tears from all faces. Oh my goodness, what imagination. What universal hope. All peoples, all faces. The fierce judgment on the ruthless in verses 1 through 5 is now followed by a banquet for all. Again. Did the editor of Isaiah fall asleep when he was putting this together? And that's what a lot of people believe. He's just a bad editor. And that may be true, but I wonder if something more is going on here, something that is telling, something that is potentially life-giving. And by the way, if you continue to read in Isaiah, right after this soaring poem of great universal hope, you will discover that Isaiah right away returns to something that is everything but universal hope. After the banquet of the best food and drink for all people, and after the death of itself, we hear this: the Moabites shall be trodden down in their place, as straw is trodden down in a dung pit. Come on, Isaiah. Why such pettiness? Why such vindictiveness after such hopefulness, after such graciousness? One writer I was consulting the other day said this: the wicked just don't seem to go away. That's true, isn't it? The wicked just don't seem to go away. The writer of Psalm 23, our favorite psalm, we sang it today rather than reading it. Notice what the psalmist says: you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. The wicked just don't seem to go away. The enemies even show up in an amazing pastoral scene of still waters, green pastures, and a big party. Real life doesn't go away, and sometimes real life is ugly, violent, bloody, and even evil. And it is in the midst of real life, hard life, grieving life, angry life, life that is petty, life that creates victims and victimizers, that the poetry of hope appears. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't say this with any shallowness. People seldom do us, who are deeply in grief, any good by telling us that the sun's going to come out tomorrow. And I know that it's an entirely different thing to cling to hope when you are distant from the sad realities being experienced than when you are fully involved in them. From a distance, many of us get the privilege of just feeling blue. Those on the ground hear the jets, bury their dead, walk in the rubble. But still, amid all that comes the poetry of hope. The Lord of hosts will make for all peoples a feast of the finest food and the finest drink. He will create for us the party of all parties. And on the party mountain, he will destroy that which ruins all parties, that which makes living so hard, that which is a wet blanket to every experience in life, that which comes before our moments of joy and after our moments of joy. He will do away with death forever. If the resurrection of Jesus means anything, it means the thing that visits us always, the thing that makes real life too real, has been disabled, has, as a piece of artwork that my son gave me says, lost its venomed sting. Now, again, I don't say that with any cheapness. When at the graveyard I speak those words or these words, death is swallowed up in victory, O death, where is your victory, O death, where is your sting? I often say in my mouth, in my heart, the sting is huge. Don't tell me that it's been done away with. But that is the promise. And it is a promise that comes awkwardly, as if somehow it just falls into our laps, as if we don't create it, as if it doesn't really belong where it is. Maybe Isaiah fell asleep when he was editing. Maybe the vision of hope just plopped into his lap as he was recounting the consequences of war, gloating over victories, becoming petty once again with his enemies. Maybe hope just surprisingly comes in the midst of real life. Scott Gearhart, in our Bible study on Wednesday, said that maybe God's specialty is surprise parties. I hope so. I join her brokering in praying, Lord, send us surprises. Send us surprises, ones that catch us off guard and make us wonder, like Easter. Send us a resurrection when everything looks dead and buried. Send us the light when the night seems too long. Send us spring when the cold and frozen season seems endless. Send us new ideas when our minds are empty. Send us things to do when we're just waiting around. Send us new friends when we are alone. And send us peace when war is all we see. Send us a future when everything looks hopeless. And send us your resurrection when we die. Amen.